Hello, students of class 7. How are you all? Student, I am a science teacher, DPS sir, from Malcolm Public School, Gola Bajar, Gorakhpur. Student, you know that your chapter reproduction plan is already in process, and today I am going to explain the remaining part of this chapter. I will start from the little bit recap of the previous taught portion. I will start from the pollination. Student, I have already explained that pollination means the transfer of pollen grain from the male gamete of the flower, that is the anther, to the female gamete of the either same flower or the other flower, this to the other flower of stigma. I have already explained that the male part of the flower is the anther and filament. Above the anther is the pollen grain present, and the pollen grain from the anther transfer to the stigma part of the female reproductive part of the flower, that is called pistil or carpel. So from that stigma it passes through the pollen tube, through the stigma it passes to style to ovary, ovary to it goes inside the ovule, and from inside that ovule it attach with the ova. So this mode of transfer of pollen grain from the male gamete to the female gamete, that is from anther to stigma of the flower, is called pollination, in which I have explained about the self-pollination and the cross-pollination. If the pollination is taking place inside the same flower, in the same flower, the male part of the same flower, pollen grain from the male part transfer to the female part of the same flower is called self-pollination. But if the flower is passing from the male part of the of one flower to the female part of the other flower, that is called the cross pollination. Next to it, I will explain about the fertilization. Fertilization means when the male gamete, male sex organ, that is the pollen grain, when attached with the ova present inside the ovule of the female reproductive organ, this is called fertilization. Okay, student. So, what is fertilization? Let's explain. Fertilization is the process of fusion of male and female gamete. The fusion of male and female gamete inside the ovule to form a zygote. When the male reproductive organ fuse with the female reproductive organ, there the formation what takes place, that is the zygote. And this formation of zygote by the fusion of male and female reproductive organ is called fertilization. So student, fertilizing the process of fusion of male and female gamete inside the ovule to form the zygote. When a pollen grain falls on the stigma of the flower, that I have already told, when the pollen grain from the anther arises by different sources of means, just by insect, by rainfall, by wind, whatsoever the different agents are working for transferring of the pollen grain from the male reproductive part to female reproductive part. Okay, when this pollen grain is transferred, when it sits, this pollen grain sits on the fall or falls on the stigma part of the female reproductive organ. From through there is a pollen tube present. When the pollen grain falls on the stigma of the flower, its outer wall bursts to open to produce a pollen tube. That upper part is stigma opens, and there's a presence of pollen tube inside the style portion, okay, which moves in the downward direction, where these pollen grains start moving toward the downward directions. The pollen tubes enters the stigma and passes through the style and enters the ovule. So that I have already drawn the figure in my previous video, that this basal part is called the ovary, and this is the stigma, and this little bit more narrower part is called the style, and inside there is a pollen tube that opens inside the ovary, that is the ovule, that is called the pollen tube. That is called the pollen tube. So student, so when the pollen grain falls on the stigma of the flower, its outer part bursts to open a pollen tube which moves in the downward directions. The pollen tube enters the stigma and passes through the style and enters the ovule. The male gamete moves to the ovule, which helps to this pollen tubes and combines with the female gamete present in the ovule. So the female gamete which is present inside the ovule, there the male gamete, that is the pollen grain, fuse inside it, and there after the fertilization of that egg cell, there is a formation of zygote. When this egg cell, that is the ova, present inside the ovule, the ova in plural ovum, that is present inside the ovule, this egg cell ova, when get attached with the pollen grain, they become fertilized, and there starts the formation of zygote. The zygote develops into an embryo. Embryo is this fast. So the embryo, that part of a seed which develop into a new plant, and this embryo further there take place the reproductions, and there this embryo further changes, develops into a new plant. There may be more than one pollen tubes pushing their ways through the style to reach the egg cell. It is saying that inside through the style, not only one, more than one pollen tubes might be there. The one that finds its way first, the one pollen grain that finds its way first to reach the ova, that helps in fertilizing that ova. One that first gets the change with the male gamete fusing with the egg cell. Okay, rest of the pollen grain dries it up. Only one pollen grain gets the chance to get attached with that egg cell, that is the ova. Sorry student. Okay student. Now the formation of seeds and fruit. The formation of seed and fruit. Student, the ovule which is present inside the ovary, after a few days the rest of the part of the flower dries and falls down, but the part of the flower, ovary and ovule, changes its shape. The ovule which is present inside the ovary, that takes the shape of internal seeds, and the the ovary present above the ovule, that converts into the fleshy fruit. So the formation of seed and fruit. First, after fertilization, there forms the zygote, which is a single cell structure. Okay. The zygote then begins to divide. The zygote then begins, okay, student. The zygote then begins to divide and forms a multicellular. Now, from single cell, it forms single cell, that is called the zygote, and that zygote further changes into form the embryo. The embryo remains surrounded by a one or two cotyledon which stores food, and that embryo surrounded by a cotyledon, either one or two cotyledon, and this cotyledon are the, you can say, mother plant, that until and unless the plant is able to make their own food, till then these cotyledon are attached with that seed to provide them nourishment. So, growing into the embryo remains surrounded by a one or two cotyledon which stores food for the growing seed, and this seed starts germinating. The ovule now becomes the seed. Just now I told you, inside the ovary, ovule is present. That ovule converts into seed, and the ovary converts in the fleshy pulp, that is the fleshy part of the fruit, that is the ovary, and the seeds is formed from the ovule. Now student, dispersal of seed. You know very well, if you plant many seeds within a few area, when the seeds start doing the germination process, those seedling, when they convert into a nursery plant, these plant will not be able to survive because of the huge gathering in a very small place, where they are not getting proper supply of the requirements like water, air, sunlight. Due to this scarcity problem, as because in a very less area huge amount of seedlings are growing, and those nursery plants are not able to get sufficient amount of all those things that are required for the germination of the plant. So in that case they will not be able to survive and they will die. So the plant, the mother plant expects that their seedling, that their seeds must be transferred to such a places where there is no gathering of any other seedlings or any other plants, and those seedlings could easily survive and grow into a new plant. So for that case, the topic is dispersion. Dispersion means transfer of seed from their mother plant to far away in such a place there the, what you can say, there's no gathering of lots of seeds or some any other plant that could make it difficult to survive in the survive of that baby plant. So this is called the dispersal of seeds. So means removing of the seedlings or the seeds from their mother plant to far away, so that it could better survive, those seedlings would better survive. So there are various agents that do the process of, you can say, dispersion by wind. Certain seeds that are very light in weight, just by the moving of wind, these lightweight seed gets detached from their mother plant, and due to the air pressure this starts flying in the air, and when the air is calm they settles down and starts germinating. So such seeds that get dispersed by the means of air, wind, is called the wind dispersal of seed. Next agent is that water. There are such seeds that grow near the coastal areas. When the seed falls into the moving water current, the water carries these seeds, and just at the moment of turning of that their waves, they just settle at the side of the coast, and there they start germinating into a new plant, just like plant of you can say coconut plant, and plant that dispersed by the wind also. just like seeds of madar. Okay, there are some plants which could be dispersed by the animals, just like few birds just took the fruit, pick it into its beak, and after eating their pulp reason, they, while flying, they drops those seeds to such a vacant place where there might not be any they didn't do this by any pre-planned, just it happened that while eating and while flying, the seeds drop from their beak or from their leg holding, and they fall in certain area where it start doing germination, as well as some animals eats the fruit along with its seed, and when they throw the waste material out from their body, the seeds falls down through their dung, and there it gets the favorable conditions and start doing germination. We people also suppose that we have plucked the mango from certain plant and eaten its pulp. Okay, and after eating, we have just carelessly thrown the seed, and where it falls, if there is no any competitive of that seed or any other plant, they will easily grow in such a environment where there is no any too much competition. It would easily get the water, sufficient sunlight, sufficient carbon dioxide, and they start growing, germinating there. So this is by means of animal or human beings. There are certain plants which do their seed dispersal by means of explosion. Just for example, cotton plant, or you can say ladyfinger, this is a vegetables. When a time will come that their upper covering opens by explosion method, and the inner seed thrown to a far distance, and this is also a method of just doing dispersal by means of explosion. Just for example, I have told the cotton plant shades and the ladyfinger. So here we have seen there are four different means of dispersal. One is by wind, other is by dispersal by water, other by animal or by explosion. So what is the advantage of this dispersal? The advantage is that it prevents the overcrowding of the plant in an area. It prevents an overcrowding. Too much crowding will be there, then the plant will not survive. Next, it prevents the competition of sunlight. If there is too much plant, then there is a competition between those plants of taking the sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide. So each of will not get sufficient sunlight or whatsoever the requirement which is necessary for the plant to grow. They will not get sufficient amount, and they will not survive. They will die. Next, it helps the plant to grow in a new plant. It will get proper timing and proper places where if they are thrown, if there is no any competitor, then they will grow in that area properly without any competitions, and then they will change into a healthy plant. So, germination of seed. When we take proper care of the seeds, that seed there, when it get the soil, minerals, water, carbon dioxide, there it starts the radical and plumal coming out. The radical goes towards the ground surface, and this radical further converts into the roots, and the plumal that moves toward the upward, that transfer into the shoot. So from the seed there arises radical and plumal. The radical converts into root, and the plumal converts into shoot. So student, today I have explained about the what is pollination, how many types of pollination are there, what is dispersal, what is the mean of dispersal, what is the benefits of dispersal, what are the various agents of dispersal. Again, I will explain that which part of the seed convert into which part of the flower convert into fruit, pulp resin, and which part convert to seeds. Next, I have explained about the germination, during germinations, the radical comes out that further converts into the root, and the plumule comes out that further converts into shoot. So today I have completed the explaining of this chapter, student. Try to listen to the video carefully and try to clear your concept. Thank you, student. Have a nice day.